Okay, hi, it's Paul Green here from the business community doing another one of our regular Spotlight on interviews where we delve into the business life and sometimes the personal life of the guests that we have on the show. So I'm pleased to say that today I'm joined by Sarina Mann. Hi, Sarina.
Hi, Paul.
Thanks for coming along, giving up some time for us.
Thanks
So
for inviting me.
before we sort of like prod and poke about in your business world, do you want to let people know who you are and what you do?
Yes, sure. So my name is Sarina Mann. I'm the creator of Breakthrough Public Speaking. I help business owners speak with confidence and clarity for videos, webinars, and virtual events. So all things virtual.
Okay, excellent. So the first question on these sessions is, how did you get to where you are today? What was the business journey that led you to be? Oh, let me just turn off some of those distracting notifications. Should have done that before, but hey, there you go. So right, they're all off now. He says, hoping. Yeah. So if you just want to let us know how you got to where you are today, that'd be lovely.
Absolutely. Yep. So that's exactly what it was. As with many businesses, it's a journey, and my journey was just that. My journey started in adversity rather than opportunity. But what I realized is that the adversities I had created my opportunities. So where it started was actually at a Toastmasters club. I joined Toastmasters because I'd recently set up as a self-employed person. I wanted to be a GCC English language tutor. The reason I decided to go self-employed was because I had been unwell for about 5 years. I had a chronic illness. I wasn't able to walk or even read or write or even sit in a chair for more than a few minutes. So I had to accept that at some point it wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to be able to go out to work. So I decided to set up my own business. And I set up as a GCC English language tutor. In fact, I still do a little bit of this as a side business because I really enjoy it. And I realized that what I really needed in order to run a successful business was confidence. And that's what was lacking. I needed to be confident in myself. I needed to speak about my business and be able to present about what I was doing. And that's what was really lacking. So that's why I joined Toastmasters, to get some confidence behind my business. And when I joined Toastmasters, which I love, and I still am a Toastmaster, I love being part of this community. Toastmasters, by the way, is an organization that helps you speak with confidence and develop your leadership and communication skills. So I joined my local club and quite quickly joined an advanced speakers club. And this is when things started to take off. And I developed myself as a speaker. I entered lots of contests and won lots of contests and became this award-winning speaker and even placed at a national speaking contest, an impromptu speaking contest. And there was something that changed in me. It wasn't just about presentation skills. It was an inner journey that I went, a journey of confidence and finding my voice. And I realized that it's something that I wanted to help others to do. In fact, quite quickly, I introduced it to all my tutees, 14, 15-year-old kids who are all there giving presentations and developing their public speaking skills because I realized it was so important. So at the beginning of lockdown, I actually started I joined a mastermind group with a few of my friends who are all professional speakers and trainers. And we really honed in on our virtual presentation skills. We gave each other feedback, and one thing led to another. We started to really enjoy it, and I decided, this is it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start my own business in helping people with their presentation skills online. Because another thing that I found was that there's a lot of fear about it. Even the confident Toastmasters I knew, some of them were really worried about going on video. So I realized that it was a thing. So not only wanting to help people with their voices, but help people overcome that fear of speaking on camera is why I started this particular business.
Well, it was a good time to do it, I guess, because yeah, I certainly experienced that myself. And sometimes with people coming onto these sessions, they're a little bit apprehensive about doing it. Obviously, the nature of my business, it was networking. So when COVID struck, we went into the first lockdown. You know, you had to sort of like suck up this idea of being on camera because we had to get the business going. We had to just do it. So it's a little bit like that. And
Absolutely, indeed.
Yeah, and I guess my confidence has grown over the time. I think it's like a lot of things. You know, people don't like the sound of their own voice, or they don't like what they look like on camera. They don't want to watch it back, and all those sort of things.
Yeah.
So I guess you come across all those sorts of things every day.
It's a really big thing for people. Yeah.
Mm. And is it so in terms of like your target audience? Then is there anybody specifically that you're looking to engage and attract for your services?
Sure. Yeah. So it's people who are that they're business owners, there are people who want to promote their business in some way. Maybe they want to do videos of themselves talking about what services they offer. For instance, a lot of service professionals often want to talk about their services, but they hold themselves back. I know quite a few people who've said they'd love to do their own webinar or put themselves forward. I even know some people contacted me and said, I've been given some opportunities to present about my business, but I had to pull out because I was too shy. So it's those who actually want to see the value of speaking about their business because they know they'll get so much back from it, because it increases their visibility, increases their sales ultimately, because people will know more about them, whether it's webinars or videos, but also delivering a talk at a networking event, for instance, or any other virtual event. So it's mainly service professionals, business owners who want to start upping their game and being more noticed through delivering presentations on virtual platforms.
Mm-hmm. So how do you work with your clients then? What's the typical process to give them that confidence and get them to be better in front of a camera?
Sure. So the first thing I do is assess each client. One of the big myths around public speaking is that people say, you know, anxiety is just something you should embrace. It's like excitement. It's the same emotion. Go for it. So I utterly disagree with that. So when I was a child, I had an anxiety disorder, and it took me a while to work out how to overcome that and be confident myself. And what I notice is that people often, especially in the arena of public speaking, do give the wrong advice. This advice is correct if you have low levels of anxiety. Okay, so that goes with so much advice. It's blanket advice. So what I don't do is give blanket advice. So I look specifically at what the goals are of each client. What do you want to do? And then pinpoint the fear. So we go through a process. There's lots to it. Not only the goals, is it, you know, delivering an online training, or is it giving a speech? These are all very different things. So once we are clear on the goal, we look at the emotions that go behind that. And it's about being really specific. Because, for instance, I know quite a few people who deliver training on a regular basis who still feel they need to read it out word for word. And reading out, actually, it's very stressful, because it means if anything goes off script, you can't cope. It's all too much. So it's actually better not to read it word for word. So I help people see that what they're doing is actually maybe not so helpful, that the techniques they use to cope with their anxiety. And I help them with better techniques and even overcoming that anxiety, which is the ultimate goal. But this takes longer. But the first step is being really specific. And it's recognizing that everyone will have different fears. Some people, I've just been helping one recently who was worried she'd get a panic attack before delivering a talk. So it wasn't about, she knows she can speak. It wasn't about the presentation skills at all. It was about worrying that she'd have a panic attack. So that was the focus. It was about the anxiety. Someone else was about, you know, going blank. What if I go blank? Again, that's about anxiety. For someone else, it's about, I don't really know how to use the equipment. And that's something different entirely. That's about developing competence. And then for many, it's actually about developing their presentation skills, because you can't just say to someone, oh, you know, just drive me somewhere, when someone doesn't know how to drive. Yet we expect this for some reason in presentation skills. We expect people just to know how, just do it. And that's a big reason as to why people are frightened of it. They don't actually know how to engage their audience, how to deliver their content with impact. And that's what's scary. So it's about finding out what exactly they're concerned about. And also if they've had a bad experience, because that will have an effect. So once you know exactly what you're afraid of, and also how worried you are, this is a big factor, because again, it goes back to this confidence myth about just, you know, just go for it, because your anxiety is just a form of excitement. That's only true when anxiety is very low. But if your anxiety is high, then that's not the right advice. So you need to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your anxiety? This is really important. Okay, so we work through this process, firstly, of getting to know their goal, what types of fear and how much they fear speaking in front of others, being really specific, and then putting together and structuring their content. So by the end of the coaching, generally, people have something solid by the end of it. It's not just theory, if you see what I mean, because that doesn't really help. right? So it needs to be practical. So by the end of it, they'll have a video ready. They'll have a structure for their webinar ready, and I'll be giving them feedback. And once people get that feedback as well from someone who knows, then this often itself is enough to give them the confidence they need to take the next step forward.
Because for me, you know, I'm all sort of like learning, but it feels like it's with presentation skills. If I look back on, you know, back to school days, probably when you did the public speaking, you know, because your English teacher told you had to, and you know, the fear of that and standing in front of your peers at school and what have you, and then when you go into corporate and you're put in positions like that, exhibition, all sorts of different things. But I guess over time, it's a bit like developing a muscle, isn't it? I guess that, you know, the more you do it, the more confident you get, and the easier it becomes. And then I guess you have new challenges to overcome as you go up the chain. For me, I guess, you know, I've probably the biggest audience I've ever presented in front of around about 30, 40 people. That's the sort of biggest. I don't know what it would be like to present in front of 1,000 people or something like that. You know, it'd be in my head, it would be more of a scary thing to do that than it would be in front of 30 or 40 people. So I guess, you know, there's different elements to it, aren't there?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Paul. Thanks for sharing your experience as well, because there is a gap between speaking in front of 30, speaking in front of 1,000, or also whether it's virtual and whether it's face-to-face. And there are different things involved in that. So what I would say is that whenever you do have a goal to speak in front of others, take logical steps forward. So don't take, let's say, one small step forward rather than a huge leap and then fall back. So let's say if you've never spoken in front of others, then a huge leap forward would be speaking in front of 1,000. It just wouldn't be a good idea. But speaking in front of your cat first will do to start. Then speak in front of a networking event, 30, 40, and build it up gradually. Also get familiar. As you said, it's absolutely about familiarity. Like with anything in life, it is a skill, and it's about familiarity with that skill. So once you feel confident in front of 10 people in a virtual environment, okay, then go up to 30. But then also you'll need to develop those skills for, let's say, in person too, because different fears arise. And also what I've noticed with working with people is everyone is different. Some people feel that speaking on camera is significantly scary than speaking in person. I actually know people who will happily speak in front of 2,000 people in person, but cannot do a video. It's just out of the question. It's too frightening. Okay. Or I also know the opposite. So it's about learning what frightens you and why, whether it's virtual or in person, and then taking a small step forward. I think it's good to have experience of both types of speaking, to be honest, because you never want to get caught out. Because these days, you know, some things could be in person, some things could be virtual.
Thanks for that. So I ask people on these sessions, you know, what's your why? I know when you're familiar with Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. And it's really about, you know, what is the emotional connection you have to your business? What's the driving force that has you, you know, get out of bed in the morning and fight the good fight that it is with being a small business owner? So what would you say is your why?
It's a great question, because you do need a strong why, I think, as any business owner, because you're completely motivated yourself. And for me, that's the only reason I'm doing this, because I have a very strong why. So as I said earlier, as a child, I had an anxiety disorder. So a lot of my childhood, teenage years, and into my early adult years, I didn't have a voice. And when I look back, I realized I missed out on so many opportunities, all because of anxiety. That there was in reality no reason why I couldn't speak up, or no reason why I had to run away at the last minute before giving a presentation at university. You know, so I realized I'd prevented myself from finding opportunities. And also that so many people think that there are some people who are just confident and other people who are just anxious and shy. And that's, in one sense, it's true that some people are more confident than others. But I think in terms of presentation skills, we can close the gap, that people who are more anxious and people who are confident can both deliver presentation skills. It's just about finding the right techniques for you. So when I joined Toastmasters and when I set up my business, one of the things that was driving me is that I wanted everyone to know that they can have a voice, that they don't have to be held back for any reason, especially not the fear of public speaking. It's something that can haunt you for your entire life, but it doesn't have to. You don't have to have this as something that holds you back from fulfilling your dreams effectively. And we know that if you run your business, it's so important to be out there and be seen rather than hide away, because it enables you to have connections with others. People can get to know you, get to know your business, what it would be like to work with you. If this were just if this interview was all just in a text, Paul, and then people really couldn't understand either of us really that well.
Yeah.
Because it would just be a few words, but because they can see us chatting, and of course they can get to know us. So I have felt passionate about everyone having a voice, not only because I didn't have a voice as a young person, but then when I got very unwell in my early 30s, I collapsed, was taken to A&E, and I couldn't move for a few years, and I actually lost my voice. I couldn't speak above a whisper. And to me, that was the time that I feel my most disempowered, was when I literally couldn't move, when I had no voice, literally had no voice. And when I found my voice in public speaking, it wasn't just about presentation skills. Aha, now I can deliver a presentation. It wasn't about that. It was about, now I feel more confident in myself. Now I feel more like a whole person, because I realize that every part of me is okay. I don't have this worry in the back of my mind. Oh no, what if this happens at a networking event? I couldn't cope. Oh no, what if I'm asked to do this? There isn't that worry anymore. I can relax. And that's what I wanted to share with others. So that is really my driving force.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. I totally get the anxiety part, even from a networking point of view, where, the bare minimum sometimes is just doing like a 45-second introduction. And I know people really struggle with that sometimes, just the thought of doing that. I think virtual, to an extent, whilst it's got its limitations, I think has helped that for certain people, because you're not going into a room full of strangers. You're going into a virtual room, but I don't think it's the same thing. There's always a little X in the corner that you can just sort of like click and get out whenever you want. It's a little bit more difficult in the in the face-to-face world.
Yes.
But I certainly know that there is a fear of just doing a 45-second or 60-second introduction. So it's certainly that you're helping people find their voice, even if it's just at that level, I think is an important step.
For sure. And I know what you mean. I mean, there is a reason why speaking for 45 seconds is actually really scary. And that's because, as a speaker, what I know is that it is much more difficult to speak for 45 seconds than it is for 45 minutes. Okay, because in that 45 seconds, what you're being asked to do is tell everyone exactly what you do, who you serve, why you do what you do, what's on offer. And it's a lot. And you have to be really specific about language, really succinct. And then there will be a tendency to want just to read it out. And that will really stop you from communicating well if you start reading it. So there are all kinds of obstacles. Whereas if you're, let's say, speaking for 45 minutes, although that would seem terrifying in one sense, in another, you have time to process your thoughts as you're speaking as you would normally do in any conversation. So there's a lot of pressure for that pitch in the networking events, and certainly it can cause a lot of stress for people.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I can see that now, because it's like it is a little bit of a pressure cooker, isn't it? 45 seconds to get that stuff across. So there's people that are out there that probably do similar things to you and offer similar services. What would you say distinguishes you from your competitors?
Sure. So yeah, everyone is different. And in one sense, I believe there is no competition, because everyone will be attracted to different people for so many different reasons. One of the things, though, that I feel does make me different, and something that I get a lot of feedback for from anyone and everyone that I've worked with, is my level of empathy. Okay, so empathy, I believe, is a really, really important quality in every area of life, but in particular as a coach. Because if you don't truly understand your client's experience, you can't really help them. So empathy is different from sympathy. It's not saying, oh dear, poor you. It's not like that. Empathy, you respect that person and you're thinking, I get that. I understand how this is difficult from your perspective. I understand things from your perspective, or you're trying to understand from someone else's perspective. So empathy is a really important quality, and that's always the feedback I get. And one of the reasons it's also important is in terms of the feedback I give to my clients, because if you understand your client well, again, you can give them really great feedback, because you're speaking their language. You've understood exactly what it is that's holding them back and exactly what could help them to move forward. So empathy, I would say, is my greatest skill, as well as my ability to give really great feedback, because it's not easy actually giving feedback for someone's presentation skills, because there's so much to consider. You do need to think about how experienced they are. You need to think about their personality. You need to think about their confidence levels and what will be the most beneficial feedback to give them in terms of all of their skills and their goals in that moment. So feedback is one of the things I put a lot of effort into as well. I'd also say, because I'm someone who has overcome an anxiety disorder, so I'm not someone who's going to give blanket advice about anxiety. I will be very specific about how to overcome things, and also it's best for someone to see a therapist, and that's fine too. There is an element, if someone has really high anxiety, to seek professional help. Overall, these are not the types of people who tend to come to me. The types of people who tend to come to me who are people who are feeling overall quite confident, but they want to be even better with their presentation skills. But the point of having had an anxiety disorder means that I know a lot about, from an experiential level, how to overcome anxiety, and the importance of knowing your level of anxiety and how to work with it. So I'd say those were the two key factors.
Okay, thank you for that. So as we're recording this, we're still in a pandemic, I guess. We haven't quite got it under control. Whether we ever will, no one knows, I guess. But at least we've got a little bit more freedom now. So that's been the biggest challenge for most small businesses in the last sort of however long it's been, 18, 19 months. What would you say has been your biggest business challenge since you started your business?
Okay, so one thing I would say is that the pandemic, although an utter tragedy for the world, for my small business, it did give me an opportunity, because I will talk about a challenge that I have, but I would say overall, being online for someone who, because my health still does affect me, I'm not someone who can travel a lot. So being online has opened the door to many different opportunities. And I might not have started the business actually if everything hadn't gone online. So I feel at the very start of the pandemic, then I just had lots more opportunities. However, one of my biggest struggles was understanding what I was good at and what I wasn't. So I realized that for me, technical skills are not my strong point. So I paid for someone to do my website, for instance, these kinds of things. I realized, gosh, there's a lot I need to actually be able to do to run my own business. There's so many different things, from accounting to your technical skills, then the presentation skills, and keeping on top of my own skills and so on. So I realized my biggest challenge was the technical stuff, which I did seek help with. Again, part of my mastermind group, these are the things we discuss. So I realized that it's always important to make sure you get the right support, either if it's the right people to contact or paying someone to do something that will just take you way too much time.
So you mentioned this mastermind group. What had you get involved with that, and what sort of value do you get from that as a business owner?
Okay, it's actually a group of my own friends. Actually, Mark Kennedy is one of them. They're all professional speakers or trainers. And it's a small group of 4 or 5 of us. And what we bring to the group is we're developing our speaking skills mostly. And at the moment, we're working on our marketing skills. But for most of the first year of the pandemic, we focused specifically on virtual skills. So we would, let's say, I would post a video and they would give me feedback, all of them. So I'd get 3 or 4 sets of feedback from each individual that we meet up once a month and go through that feedback. So it means I was improving my skills all the time, which I feel is essential. If you wanted to develop any kind of skill, in particular your presentation skills, you can't just give yourself feedback, because that can go very wrong. Either way, either, hey, I am brilliant, or, oh no, I can't show anyone. You need to show someone. So that was the value it gave me. It made me much more confident in my presentation skills, and also helped me to hone in on my skills to give feedback to others, especially because they were already professional speakers themselves, or else trainers. So this was invaluable to me, to be working with these guys, and in particular developing those virtual skills. As I said, at the moment we've decided to change over to marketing skills, and sometimes we invite speakers into the group as well to help us to develop a particular skill with regard to marketing, this kind of thing. So it's been invaluable to me anyway. And I do recommend mastermind groups of this sort, any group where you can share, but it's with the right people. So the mastermind group for me was essential, because these were professional speakers. That's why that was key in my area.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So you've kindly agreed to sort of share some of your knowledge and give us some top tips. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you and sort of put you in solo mode for a while. So yeah, over to you, Sarina. I'll see you in a few minutes.
Great, thank you. So if you want to deliver presentations online that are engaging and impactful, and most importantly, not boring, then there are three things that you can consider. The first thing to think about is your confidence. So this is a massive issue. It's not just a small thing. Oh, yep, confidence. It's a huge area of life, and everyone will be different. Some people will have low levels of anxiety verging on excitement. Other people will have a more paralyzing fear verging on a panic attack. So you need to know exactly where you stand in terms of your levels of anxiety and your confidence in order to move forward. Also rate your anxiety so you're clear on which steps to take forward. For instance, if you feel very anxious, and you want to do a video of yourself, but you're really worried about posting it, then take a small step forward instead. Do one video of yourself and watch it back. Then the next step forward could be do a video of yourself and show a group of friends or people who know exactly what it means to do a good video. So be clear on your confidence. This blanket advice often isn't that useful about just overcome your anxiety or just go for it. You need to know what you're afraid of. So confidence is a big area. Also, if it's to do with, for instance, your self-image, some people just don't like to see an image of themselves back or their voice. So this is really all about familiarity. Some people think that they just won't be able to do this kind of thing. And in my personal experience, I feel that's just not true. Everyone can be a confident speaker. It's just working through these steps. So the main point about confidence is think about what specifically you're afraid of in terms of speaking in front of others, and then rate yourself. And then decide on one small bit of action you can take to move yourself forward, even if it's just taking a video and just allowing just yourself to see it. The second thing I would say is to be competent with the technology involved. There are so many different areas of technology, and I know a lot of people who talk to me say that the technology really puts them off. But in reality, you don't need to do too much to feel competent. When you feel competent with the technology involved, naturally, you'll feel much more confident about virtual presentations, whether that's for a live presentation on Zoom, or whether you want to do a video and just learn some basic video editing skills. The last area, and the third area, which is the most important, is your public speaking skills. This includes the language you use, the content you make, and how you deliver that information. For instance, the hand gestures you want to use, or your facial expression, or the language, how you structure your presentation. These are massive areas in public speaking, and something that unfortunately goes unacknowledged. Often people think that they feel frightened of public speaking or presentation skills, but they don't know why. And often it's because they're not sure, they've never really learned the skills. In UK schools, they don't really learn presentation skills that much, or at university. So you can go your whole life not really knowing how, but just knowing that it makes you worried. To learn the skills, again, from competence, then you'll feel much more confident. And there's lots of information available. Once you feel confident about these skills, then it's about practicing them and getting feedback. Getting feedback is hugely important, especially in presentation skills. And not just from someone who thinks you're wonderful or the opposite. You need to find someone who knows about speaking skills so that you can get that feedback. And just acknowledge that your first video or your first online presentation won't be the best, but that's fine. Just take some kind of action, because one of the best ways to really overcome your anxiety is to take action, but the right action. So don't go from someone who's paralyzed with fear to speaking in front of 1,000. Instead, go from someone who's paralyzed by fear, work through your anxiety a bit, pinpoint what you're afraid of, and then take one step forward. You can, these days, it's so easy to organize something with friends. You can just deliver a presentation via Zoom with some friends on board, and then get some feedback and so on. So get some familiarity with those techniques. So those, in summary, those are the three techniques I would suggest if you're interested in developing your presentation skills, in particular for the online environment. Firstly, be clear about how you can be more confident when you present, make it particular to you. Second, be competent with the technology involved. And lastly, master public speaking or presentation skills for virtual platforms.
Excellent. Great tips there, Sarina. Thanks very much for that. I was just thinking back to when I did my first video, and I was encouraged by, I've been to a workshop, and the guy sort of that was leading the workshop sort of like challenged us and said the first person that can publish a video on whatever social media platform it was, and there's a couple of other things, and he was going to give like some free mentoring or free coaching. So I thought, yeah, I'll give that a go. And just the whole, I wouldn't necessarily sort of call it anxiety as such, but it was just sort of, you mentioned technology. It's what, do I do it on my phone? This was sort of pretty much, this was pretty much pre-Zoom, because it's a little bit easier now with Zoom. You just fire that up and just do a recording. So yeah, it was then it was trying to position the phone, find the right space in the house, and then there's the content, then there's the putting it together, then there's the first take and the second take and the third take, because you keep getting it wrong, which no excuse on this. We're live, so if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. So I very clearly remember that, and looking back on that, it was an awful video.
Indeed, and I think that's
go ahead.
I think it's great to remember. It's such a good point that your first video, it won't be great, and that's why my first video was appalling. I wish I could actually find it. It was so horrendous. And that's fine, because there is a lot to it. But I think some people just think they should just have this natural ability just to speak brilliantly on video. But why? I mean, of course, it needs some practice.
So Neil's just commented. So, the technology point of view, they do the quarterly webinars that they're saying they don't quite get perfect, but obviously practice helps, and getting feedback and reviewing it, just see sort of like moving that one step in the right direction.
Absolutely. Thank you, Neil.
Thanks for tuning in. So one final thing, then your ordeal is over, Sarina. Well, it's not an ordeal for you. This is a natural environment, isn't it? So if you were to give one top tip for any business owner out there, from either from the skills you offer, or one small business owner to another, what would that top tip be? Okay,
so one top tip to leave you about presentation skills today is this: your presentation is not about you. It is about your audience. If you keep this in mind throughout all your presentations, this will actually transform your ability to deliver impactful presentations. For one, it will help you feel more confident, because the more you focus on your own anxiety, the more anxious you feel. When you change the focus and focus on your audience, the less anxious you feel. Focus on the audience and the message. The other thing is that when you're really focused on your audience, your message will naturally be clearer, because you're totally focused on what information they need from you right now. So as an overall guiding principle, whenever you do a presentation, always think that the most important thing right now is to think about the message I'm delivering to my audience, the audience.
Excellent. Thank you very much. As I said, that was the last question I had for you. So thanks for your time today. I think we'll end the broadcast there.
Thank you very much, Paul.